Most people think they already know what makes a gemstone valuable. A famous name, a beautiful color, a high price tag. But serious collectors see things differently. They look for the details most people miss. Where a gemstone comes from, why nature created it only once, and what makes it impossible to replace. In 2026, collectors are paying attention to a group of extraordinary gemstones that many people still underestimate. Some carry forgotten histories, some reveal rare natural phenomena, and some possess qualities that even experts consider remarkably difficult to find. Today, we explore 10 gemstones quietly attracting the attention of serious collectors and discover what separates an ordinary stone from a true collector treasure. But our journey begins with a gemstone that breaks almost every rule. It is not formed deep beneath the earth. It is created by a living creature. Number 10, natural pearl. When most people imagine a gemstone, they imagine something hidden underground, a crystal formed over millions of years, a mineral transformed by heat, pressure, and time. But pearls tell a completely different story. They are created inside a living organism, and that single difference makes them one of the most fascinating treasures in the world of collecting. For thousands of years, natural pearls represented something beyond beauty. They represented rarity. Before modern jewelry transformed the meaning of luxury, natural pearls were among the most desired objects on earth. Ancient rulers, royal families, and wealthy collectors treasured them not simply because they were beautiful, but because finding one required something almost impossible: patience, luck, and nature cooperating at exactly the right moment. A person could search through countless shells and never discover a single exceptional pearl. That uncertainty created the legend. Because unlike a gemstone that can be mined from a known deposit, a perfect natural pearl was always a mystery waiting to be discovered. But then the gemstone world changed forever. In the 20th century, cultured pearls transformed the industry. Pearls that were once incredibly rare became available to a much wider audience. Beautiful pearls became easier to find, but something disappeared: the unpredictability of nature. A natural pearl forms entirely by chance. No designer chooses its exact shape. No factory controls its final appearance. Every curve, every surface texture, every subtle variation in color, all of it comes from a process that cannot be perfectly repeated. And this is exactly what serious collectors appreciate. They are not searching for something that looks identical to thousands of others. They are searching for individuality. A remarkable natural pearl is closer to a historical artifact than a manufactured luxury item. Its uniqueness is the evidence of its creation. Its irregularities are not imperfections. They are proof that nature created something no one could design. This is why exceptional natural pearls continue to attract attention from museums, collectors, and high-end jewelry specialists. Because experienced collectors understand a principle that applies across the entire gemstone world. The most valuable treasures are not always the ones that are easiest to recognize. Sometimes their greatest value comes from the fact that nature may never create the same thing again. And that brings us to the next gemstone. Because if natural pearls prove that beauty does not need perfection, the next gemstone reveals something even more surprising. A pattern created by nature so unusual that many people mistake it for a human design. Number 9. Trapiche emerald. Most emeralds are admired for one reason above all others: their color. That deep, unforgettable green that has fascinated civilizations for thousands of years. But hidden among the world's finest emeralds is a variety so unusual that even experienced collectors sometimes stop and look twice. Because this emerald does not simply display color. It carries a pattern that appears almost impossible: a six-rayed star. A natural design that looks as if an artist carved it into the crystal. But no human created it. This is Trapiche emerald. The story of Trapiche emerald begins in Colombia, a country already legendary for producing some of the world's most admired emeralds. For centuries, miners working in regions such as Muzo searched through ancient geological formations, knowing that the finest emeralds could appear inside ordinary-looking rock. But occasionally, nature revealed something far more unusual: an emerald containing dark radial lines extending from the center of the crystal, creating a pattern similar to a wheel with 6 spokes. The name trapiche comes from an old Spanish word associated with a grinding wheel used in sugar mills. The comparison was simple. The gemstone looked like nature had placed a tiny wheel inside the crystal itself. But here is what makes Trapiche emerald truly fascinating. The pattern is not painted. It is not engraved. It is not a modern treatment. It formed naturally during the growth of the emerald. As the crystal developed underground, different minerals became concentrated along specific growth boundaries, creating the distinctive star-like structure collectors recognize today. In other words, the design is actually a record of the gemstone's own creation, a geological fingerprint. And this is exactly why serious collectors pay attention. Most buyers search for perfection, the cleanest stone, the brightest color, the fewest visible characteristics. But collectors at the highest level often search for something different. They search for identity, a gemstone that tells a story, a stone that could not easily be confused with another. And Trapiche emerald offers something few gemstones can: instant recognition. A collector does not need to explain why it is special. The pattern speaks for itself. However, not every emerald with unusual markings is a true Trapiche emerald. This is where expertise becomes important. Collectors examine the clarity of the pattern, the quality of the green color, the Colombian origin, and the overall beauty of the crystal. The finest examples combine rarity and visual character in a way that makes them stand apart even among other exceptional emeralds. Perhaps the biggest lesson from Trapiche emerald is this: nature does not always create beauty by making things perfect. Sometimes the most fascinating treasures are created by the very features that make them different. A natural pattern, a unique fingerprint, a reminder that the earth does not produce gemstones like a factory. It creates them once. And while Trapiche emerald proves that nature can create designs hidden inside a gemstone, the next stone on our list tells a different story. It was not ignored because it looked unusual. It was ignored because the world misunderstood what it truly was. For generations, collectors overlooked it, until science finally revealed its real identity. Number 8. Red spinel. The story of red spinel is one of the greatest examples of mistaken identity in gemstone history. Before modern gemology existed, people did not have the scientific tools to accurately separate one gemstone from another. If a stone had the intense red color associated with royalty, it was often simply called a ruby. And because of that, some remarkable spinels became part of royal treasures, without anyone realizing their true identity. One of the most famous examples is the Black Prince's ruby, a spectacular red gemstone set in the British imperial state crown. For centuries, it was believed to be a ruby. Only later did experts determine that it was actually a red spinel. But this discovery did not make the stone less remarkable. Instead, it revealed something fascinating. The gemstone had been valuable all along. The mistake was not in the stone. The mistake was in how people saw it. For much of history, spinel existed behind ruby's enormous reputation. Ruby was considered one of the legendary gemstones of the world. Spinel was often described as a substitute, a replacement, a second choice. But modern gemology completely changed that perception. Scientists discovered that spinel is not an inferior version of ruby. It is a completely different mineral species with its own unique characteristics. Fine red spinel can display extraordinary shades ranging from vivid crimson to intense neon pinkish red. And unlike many gemstones that commonly receive treatments to improve their appearance, exceptional natural spinel is highly valued precisely because of its untouched beauty. This is where serious collectors began to look differently. The modern collector market is not only interested in famous names, it is interested in authenticity, a gemstone with a natural origin, a gemstone with a documented history, a gemstone that does not need to imitate something else to become important. And red spinel has one powerful advantage. It has finally become recognized on its own terms. But there is another reason collectors pay attention to exceptional spinel. The finest examples are not easy to find. Large stones with intense color, excellent clarity, and natural beauty remain uncommon, especially those from historically important sources such as Myanmar's famous Mogok region. For collectors, the challenge is not finding a spinel. It is finding a spinel that represents the very best of what this gemstone can become. Perhaps the greatest lesson from red spinel is that reputation can sometimes arrive centuries late. A gemstone does not become extraordinary because people finally give it a famous name. It becomes extraordinary because nature created something exceptional in the first place. And sometimes, the greatest discoveries are not new discoveries at all. They are treasures the world simply misunderstood. But if red spinel spent centuries trying to escape another gemstone's shadow, the next gemstone has never needed to prove its identity. It has always been famous. The challenge is something completely different, finding one whose origin tells a story powerful enough to make collectors search across the world. Number 7. Colombian emerald. Why serious collectors care more about origin than size. When most people look at an emerald, they usually notice one thing first: the size. A larger gemstone immediately attracts attention. But among serious collectors, size is often only the beginning of the story. Because at the highest level of collecting, one question can completely change how an emerald is valued. Where did it come from? And few gemstones demonstrate the power of origin better than the legendary emeralds of Colombia. For centuries, Colombia has been recognized as one of the world's most important sources of exceptional emeralds. Hidden deep within the eastern Cordillera Mountains are deposits that have produced some of the most admired green gemstones in history. Places like Muzo, Chivor, and Cosques became legendary names among gem collectors. But these mines are not famous simply because they produce green stones. They are famous because Colombian emeralds possess a character that collectors have spent generations trying to understand. A particular combination of color, transparency, and geological identity that makes them instantly recognizable. The story of Colombian emeralds is also a story of people. For generations, miners have searched difficult mountain terrain, following geological clues that are invisible to the untrained eye. Finding an exceptional emerald is not simply a matter of digging deeper. It requires experience, patience, and the ability to recognize something extraordinary hidden inside an ordinary-looking piece of rock. A rough emerald fresh from the mine rarely looks like the treasure it will become. The beauty is hidden, waiting for someone to discover it. But here is what surprises many people. Two emeralds can have the same size, the same color, and the same clarity. Yet collectors may value them very differently. Why? Because origin tells a story. A gemstone's birthplace provides information about its geological journey. It connects the stone to a specific region, a specific mine, and a specific moment in Earth's history. For serious collectors, that connection matters. They are not simply buying a green gemstone, they are preserving a piece of geological history. This is why exceptional Colombian emeralds continue to attract attention. Not because every Colombian emerald is automatically extraordinary, but because the finest examples combine several qualities that are increasingly difficult to find: vivid natural green color, strong transparency, desirable origin, and a character that cannot be copied. The best emeralds are not valuable because they are flawless. In fact, emeralds are famous for their internal features, often called inclusions. Collectors sometimes refer to these internal characteristics as a gemstone's garden. These natural patterns are part of what makes each emerald unique. The biggest misconception about emerald collecting is that perfection always wins. But experienced collectors understand something different. A gemstone without a story can be beautiful. A gemstone with a story can become unforgettable. A Colombian emerald carries more than color. It carries mountains, history, human effort, and a connection to one of the world's most famous gemstone regions. And that brings us to the next gemstone. Because if Colombian emeralds prove that origin can matter more than size, the next stone takes luxury collecting into a completely different world. A world where rarity is not measured only by where a gemstone comes from, but by a single detail that can transform an ordinary diamond into one of the rarest treasures on Earth. Number 6. Fancy color diamonds. The diamonds collectors chase beyond size. For more than a century, the diamond industry taught the world one simple idea: bigger is better. A larger diamond, a higher carat weight, a stone that captures attention the moment it enters a room. But at the highest level of collecting, serious buyers often look for something completely different. Not just size, not just brilliance, but something far more difficult to find. A diamond with a personality of its own. This is the world of fancy color diamonds. Unlike traditional colorless diamonds, which are valued primarily for their lack of color, fancy color diamonds are prized because of the rare colors they naturally possess. These colors are not added. They are not painted. They are not created by modern technology. They are the result of extraordinary geological events that occurred deep inside the Earth millions, sometimes billions of years ago. A tiny change in a diamond's atomic structure can transform an ordinary-looking crystal into something almost impossible to replace. The story of fancy color diamonds is also a story of changing perception. For much of history, color in a diamond was considered a flaw. But collectors eventually realized something important. The very thing that made these diamonds different was exactly what made them extraordinary. They were their own category of natural wonders. One of the most famous examples of this shift was the discovery of remarkable pink diamonds from the Argyle mine in Western Australia. For decades, this small mine produced some of the world's most admired pink diamonds. But when the mine closed in 2020, collectors paid even closer attention to these unusual stones. Not because every pink diamond became automatically valuable, but because a historically important source had disappeared. And in the gemstone world, origin matters. This is where serious collectors think differently from casual buyers. A casual buyer may ask, "How big is the diamond?" A collector may ask, "Why does this diamond exist? Where was it found? What geological conditions created its color? Does it have a documented history? Has nature produced another one like it?" These questions separate a beautiful gemstone from a truly collectible one. The rarest fancy color diamonds are fascinating because they combine two things that rarely appear together: the timeless reputation of diamonds, with the uniqueness usually associated with rare colored gemstones. A blue diamond does not simply represent luxury, it represents an extraordinary geological accident. A pink diamond is not just a jewel, it is evidence of a process that may never happen again in exactly the same way. But perhaps the most surprising thing about fancy colored diamonds is this: the world's most expensive diamonds are not always the biggest. Sometimes they are the ones with the rarest story. Because in the world of serious collecting, rarity is not measured only by size. It is measured by how unlikely it was for that object to exist at all. And while fancy color diamonds prove that even the world's most famous gemstone can still hide extraordinary secrets. The next gemstone takes us back to one of the oldest symbols of luxury, a stone whose name has represented passion, power, and prestige for thousands of years. But finding the truly exceptional examples requires something most people never see: a connection to a very specific place on Earth. Number 5. Burmese ruby. For thousands of years, humanity has searched for the perfect red gemstone, a color that represents power, passion, royalty. Among all colored gemstones, few have carried a reputation as legendary as ruby. But serious collectors know something important. Not every ruby belongs to the same world. A common red gemstone and an exceptional Burmese ruby may share the same name, but they can represent completely different levels of rarity. The story of Burmese ruby begins in the legendary gemstone region of Mogok, Myanmar. For centuries, these mountains have produced some of the world's most admired rubies. Hidden among marble deposits deep beneath the earth, exceptional crystals formed under rare geological conditions that created a combination collectors still search for today: a vivid red color, a natural glow, and a character that cannot easily be duplicated. This is the reason the finest Burmese rubies became known as some of the most important gemstones in history. But the journey from rough crystal to legendary gemstone was never simple. For generations, miners in Mogok searched through difficult terrain, following geological clues passed down through experience. A rough ruby found in the ground rarely reveals its true potential immediately. It may look ordinary, it may appear incomplete. Only after careful cutting and examination does the hidden color begin to emerge. And sometimes what appears to be a simple piece of crystal becomes a gemstone worthy of royal collections. The feature that makes exceptional Burmese rubies so fascinating is not simply their red color, it is the quality of that red. Collectors often seek what is known as pigeon blood color, a term used to describe the intense, vivid red that has become associated with the finest Burmese examples. But here is where the world of serious collecting becomes more complex. A ruby's value is not determined by color alone. Experts consider origin, transparency, treatment, size, and overall character. A large ruby is not automatically extraordinary. A smaller ruby with exceptional qualities can sometimes be far more important to collectors. This is where Burmese ruby separates itself from ordinary gemstones. Its value comes from a combination of factors that are difficult to reproduce: a legendary source, a historic reputation, a unique appearance, and a connection to some of the most famous gemstone collections ever created. For serious collectors, owning an exceptional Burmese ruby is not simply about owning a beautiful red stone. It is about owning a piece of gemstone history. However, one of the biggest misconceptions about ruby is that rarity is only about the gemstone itself. In reality, the story behind the stone can be just as important. Two rubies may look similar, but one may carry a famous origin, a documented history, and a connection to a legendary mining region. The difference is not always visible at first glance. It is discovered through knowledge. And this reveals one of the most important principles in the collector world. The greatest gemstones are not always the ones that attract attention immediately. They are the ones whose significance becomes clearer the more you understand them. But even a legendary gemstone like Burmese ruby depends on one thing: its connection to a specific place. The next gemstone takes that idea even further, because its entire reputation was built around a location so famous that the name itself became part of the gemstone's identity. A place where nature created a blue, unlike almost anything else on Earth. Number 4. Kashmir sapphire. A gemstone whose name alone can transform the way collectors view a sapphire. Today, sapphires are found in many locations around the world. Each source produces stones with its own characteristics. But Kashmir sapphires occupy a different category. Because for serious collectors, the word Kashmir represents more than a geographic location. It represents a legend. The story begins in the remote mountains of the Kashmir region during the late 19th century. High in the Himalayas, deposits of extraordinary blue sapphires were discovered after a landslide exposed hidden crystals. At first, few people understood what had been found. But as these stones reached the international market, collectors and gem experts quickly recognized something unusual. The color was different. The appearance was different. The entire personality of the gemstone was different. The finest Kashmir sapphires are famous for a quality often described as a soft, velvety blue. Not simply a bright blue, not just a saturated blue, but a color with a mysterious internal glow that appears almost suspended inside the stone. This unique appearance became one of the reasons Kashmir sapphires gained legendary status. They did not look like ordinary sapphires. They looked like something nature had created only once. But the most fascinating part of the story is not only the beauty of these gemstones, it is their disappearance. The original Kashmir deposits produced exceptional sapphires for only a relatively short period. Over time, the famous mines became far less productive. The supply of classic Kashmir material became extremely limited, and this created something collectors value enormously: a gemstone with a historical source that cannot simply be recreated. This is where serious collectors think differently. A casual buyer may ask, "Is this sapphire beautiful?" A collector asks deeper questions. Where did it come from? Does it represent a historic source? Does it possess the characteristics that made this gemstone legendary? Because in the world of fine gemstones, origin can become part of the identity. The finest Kashmir sapphires are now considered among the most important colored gemstones ever collected. They have appeared in prestigious collections, museums, and major auctions. But their appeal is not only about rarity, it is about a connection to a moment in Earth's history that may never happen again, all combined to create something extraordinary. Perhaps the greatest lesson from Kashmir sapphire is this: some gemstones become valuable because they are rare. Others become legendary because the world knows there may never be another chapter like their first one. But even a gemstone as legendary as Kashmir sapphire represents something created by ancient geological forces. The next gemstone is different. It is a modern legend, a discovery that happened within our own lifetime and completely changed what collectors believed was possible. A gemstone so visually powerful that it forced the entire industry to rethink the meaning of extraordinary color. Number 3. Paraiba tourmaline. Before the late 20th century, most collectors understood tourmaline as a beautiful but secondary gemstone. Interesting, colorful, diverse, but rarely placed beside the legendary names of the gemstone world. Then, hidden beneath the hills of northeastern Brazil, something appeared that forced the entire industry to rethink what a gemstone could be. A color so intense that many people believed it almost looked artificial. A blue-green glow unlike anything previously seen in nature. This was Paraiba tourmaline. The story of Paraiba begins not in a famous laboratory or a royal collection. It begins with one person's determination. In the hills of Paraiba State, Brazil, Miner Hader Dimas Barbosa spent years searching for something he believed existed beneath the ground. Many people doubted him. The area did not look like the location of a world-changing gemstone discovery. But Barbosa continued searching. And in 1989, his persistence revealed something extraordinary. A tourmaline with an electric blue-green color that immediately captured the attention of the gemstone world. The secret behind Paraiba's remarkable appearance was a tiny element hidden inside the crystal: copper. This trace element created colors that had rarely been seen in any natural gemstone before. Brilliant neon blue, electric turquoise, vivid green. Under the right lighting, these stones seem to produce their own internal glow. Not because they are artificial, not because they are enhanced with technology, but because of a rare combination of chemistry and geology that nature created millions of years ago. And this is what makes Paraiba different from many other gemstones. Its value is not based only on being rare. It is based on having a visual identity that almost no other gemstone can copy. A sapphire can be blue, an emerald can be green. But Paraiba created an entirely new category of color. A color so distinctive that experienced collectors can often recognize it instantly. However, the story of Paraiba is also a reminder that rarity is complicated. After the Brazilian discovery gained worldwide attention, copper-bearing tourmalines with similar characteristics were later discovered in locations such as Mozambique and Nigeria. This expanded the availability of Paraiba-type tourmalines. But for many collectors, origin remains an important part of the story. Brazilian Paraiba from the original deposits continues to hold a special place because it represents the beginning of the legend. The first chapter. The discovery that changed everything. This is why serious collectors continue to pay attention to exceptional Paraiba tourmalines. They are not simply looking for a blue gemstone. They are looking for a combination that rarely exists together: extraordinary color, natural beauty, historical importance, and a discovery story that changed the gemstone industry. Perhaps the greatest lesson from Paraiba tourmaline is that history does not always create legends slowly. Sometimes one discovery changes everything. A gemstone that was unknown yesterday can redefine an entire category tomorrow. And that is why Paraiba remains one of the most fascinating modern gemstone stories ever told. But even a gemstone that changed the rules of collecting is still limited by one thing: what our eyes can see. The next gemstone challenges that idea completely, because it is not famous because of its color alone. It is famous because, under different light, it appears to become something entirely different. A natural phenomenon so rare that collectors spend years searching for the perfect example. Number 2. Alexandrite. Under daylight, it can appear as a rich bluish green. Under warm incandescent light, the same stone may transform into shades of red or purple. It does not contain a hidden mechanism. It does not use technology. It does not rely on an illusion. It is simply one of nature's most remarkable optical phenomena. This is Alexandrite. The story of Alexandrite begins in the remote Ural Mountains of Russia during the 19th century. When miners first discovered these unusual crystals, they encountered something unlike any gemstone they had seen before. At first glance, the stones displayed a beautiful green color, but when viewed under different lighting, they revealed another identity entirely. A second color appeared, a second personality emerged, and suddenly a gemstone became a mystery. According to tradition, Alexandrite was named in honor of the future Russian Emperor Alexander II. Its green and red colors were especially meaningful because they resembled the colors associated with Imperial Russia. Almost immediately, the gemstone gained a reputation as something extraordinary. It was not simply beautiful, it was symbolic. A gemstone connected to discovery, royalty, and a fascinating natural phenomenon. But here is where many people misunderstand Alexandrite. They believe every Alexandrite dramatically changes color. That is not true. The extraordinary color change that collectors dream about is actually extremely uncommon. Many stones show only a subtle shift. The finest examples display a powerful transformation. A vivid green or bluish green in daylight. A rich red or purplish red under warmer light. The stronger and more balanced this transformation becomes, the more remarkable the gemstone is considered. This is why serious collectors approach Alexandrite differently. They are not simply searching for a gemstone that changes color. They are searching for a gemstone where every part of the experience works together. The strength of the color change, the quality of both colors, the clarity, the size, the origin. A small Alexandrite with an exceptional transformation can be far more fascinating than a much larger stone with a weaker effect. Another reason Alexandrite remains so captivating is its connection to rarity. The original Russian deposits that created some of the most legendary examples are no longer producing the same quantity of exceptional material that made the gemstone famous. Later discoveries appeared in places such as Brazil, Sri Lanka, and East Africa. But stones matching the finest historic Russian examples remain highly sought after among collectors. Because in the gemstone world, replacing a famous origin is not always possible. Perhaps the greatest lesson from Alexandrite is that true rarity is not always about what something is. Sometimes it is about what something does. A gemstone that changes its appearance as the day changes feels almost alive. It reminds collectors that nature is capable of creating phenomena that no designer could invent. And yet, even Alexandrite is not the final story, because the number one gemstone on our list did something even more remarkable. It did not simply create fascination. It did not simply become rare. It changed the way the entire gemstone world understood beauty. A discovery so unexpected that it transformed a forgotten gemstone family into one of the most exciting collecting categories of the modern era. Number 1. Burmese jadeite. The story of exceptional jadeite begins in the mountains of Myanmar, where some of the world's finest jadeite deposits have been found. But finding valuable jadeite has never been simple. A rough jadeite boulder can hide its true nature beneath an ordinary exterior. From the outside, a stone may appear completely unremarkable. Only careful cutting reveals whether it contains something extraordinary inside. This uncertainty created a tradition of patience, expertise, and experience. Because with jadeite, the greatest treasures are often hidden before they are revealed. But what truly separates jadeite from many other gemstones is the meaning attached to it. For generations, jadeite has represented more than beauty. It has symbolized prosperity, protection, family heritage, and continuity. This is why serious collectors view exceptional jadeite differently. They are not simply searching for a beautiful green gemstone. They are searching for rare color, exceptional translucency, historical importance, and a piece that carries cultural significance beyond fashion. The most important jadeite objects are often preserved, inherited, and passed forward. They become family treasures rather than temporary possessions. One of the most famous examples of jadeite's prestige came in 2014 when the legendary Hutnam necklace, created from exceptional imperial jadeite beads, sold at auction for more than $27 million. The sale demonstrated something important. The gemstone world is not only about rarity, it is also about meaning. A gemstone becomes truly extraordinary when people attach history and emotion to it. Perhaps the greatest lesson from Burmese jadeite is this: the most valuable treasures are not always the ones that shine the brightest. Sometimes they are the ones that carry the longest stories. Stories of the earth, stories of cultures, stories of generations who recognized their importance and chose to preserve them. From natural pearls created by living creatures to jadeite treasures preserved across centuries, every gemstone on this list reveals the same truth. The greatest collector gems are not simply rare, they are unforgettable, because nature may create millions of beautiful stones, but only a few become legends. The world of gemstones is not just about beauty. It is about rarity, history, and the stories that make each stone impossible to replace. After seeing these treasures, one thing becomes clear: the most valuable gemstones are not always the most famous ones. They are the ones with a story that lasts for generations. Now we want to hear from you. If you could choose only one gemstone from this list to preserve for the future, which one would it be? Share your choice in the comments. And if you enjoyed this journey into the hidden world of gemstones, subscribe for more documentaries exploring Earth's most extraordinary treasures.